So we start with another round of this or that. Here are two newsworthy stories from the world of marketing. And Ian, as a marketer, let's have a little conversation about which one of these we find more interesting. So story number one, this happened just a couple days ago. If there's one thing Elon Musk is good at, it's getting the internet in a tizzy. And with one of his latest tweets, he does it again. Elon casually dropped a poll on X asking if he should bring back the once popular Vine app. Obviously, people went a bit crazy, and he had an overwhelmingly positive response in his poll. This might not be all talk, though, as an engineer at X actually shared a link to Logan Paul's mothballed Vine page just to fire people up even more. Would Elon actually consider bringing Vine back from the dead? And if so, would people really care enough to use it? And story number two, a number of online outlets have reported that Google is considering buying HubSpot. For anybody that doesn't know, HubSpot is one of the leaders in the inbound marketing software space. While some think Google could probably just go out and build something like this on their own, other people think it's really, really smart, as the potential acquisition would allow for Google to get a whole bunch of really useful customer data, as well as a turnkey opportunity to jump into the CRM and marketing automation business. Ian, we've got Elon dropping hints about something on X. We've got Google and HubSpot considering getting together. Which one of those stories do you find more interesting?
Well, when we're talking about Elon, he's got to be the king of marketing. I mean, if he can get his name out there and get people looking at him, he's going to do it. So I've got to talk about Elon here. So the Vine story, I think, is interesting. Obviously, it has got a lot of people interested. People are very nostalgic about it. Those people that used Vine back in the day, I think, are very nostalgic about it. And perhaps looking back through rose-tinted glasses, I'm not sure. But my concern is that unless you were a Vine user back in the day, you're not going to care. And I think that the world has moved on. A lot of people are now into the world of TikTok. That's what they're used to. That's what they're logging into several times every single day. So I don't think that Vine would make enough of a splash to be relevant again in this day and age. I think a lot of people who were on it before will try it again. But I think if you weren't on Vine previously, the younger generation who's never even used it or may have heard of it, but never used it, I don't think they'd be interested at all, unfortunately. So yeah. I'm sorry, Elon, but I don't know that this will have the impact that he's hoping it will.
There's a lot of things going on in his world, and to me, it almost is like one of those, hey, look over here, a squirrel moments where, hey, look at the shiny object over here while you don't pay attention to what's happening over here.
Yes, the fires are going on over here.
Yeah. I agree with you. It was kind of like, in its time, Vine was pretty cool. You think of a guy like mentioned Logan Paul, that's kind of how he got his start, right? Yeah. And at the time, yeah, sure, that was a neat app, but it was kind of like Vine crawled so TikTok could walk. And I think going and releasing an app now that does less than apps that are out there doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I agree.
Yeah, the other thing is potentially they change it to try and update it, and then it's not what people remember. So the people who want it are kind of put off of it as well. So it's kind of like, how do you win over all of those audiences? And they may do it. I mean, good luck to them if they can win over all those audiences and make a splash. That'd be wonderful. But I can't picture how that's going to happen.
I'm not sure. And you know what? I did find it funny that instead of it being all kind of bluster, then they go and share the link to the live Logan Paul Vine account, and it's like, oh, just so you know, we still have this stuff. We can flip a switch. Yeah. So, but I kind of agree. It was interesting in that moment because I was like, oh, that'd be funny. But then I moved away from it and I didn't really care anymore. For me, the Google HubSpot thing, for what we do as marketers, is a big story and a big opportunity. We aren't a HubSpot agency. We've looked at HubSpot in the past. It's a good product and works for a lot of people. But basically an inbound marketing, kind of an all-in-one inbound marketing platform. But if Google were to step in and buy it, I think there's all sorts of interesting things that could happen with, the amount of data they would get, with cookies kind of falling by the wayside and the ability to track like that. All of a sudden, here's a big data dump of customers and what they do, etc. But I think, imagine if all of a sudden you had Google getting into the CRM game and combining everything they have through Google Ads and Google Search. And we chatted last week about the potential for a Google AI search, building that into like that Google Workspace or Google Workplace thing that we already use, with Gmail and Drive, etc. That could become a really interesting proposition for businesses and agencies and marketers. I don't know if it would happen, but it is interesting. I know some of the articles that are out there talking about the dollar figure. It's a big acquisition. We're talking about a lot of money. Absolutely. But
no, I think
potentially,
from our as fun as it is to talk about Elon and his tweets, there's no doubt that this is the bigger story from a marketing standpoint. It's a very, very interesting one. Like you say, I think that Google, I'm sure would love to get their hands on all that information. I do wonder, I wonder if they change it, because obviously they don't want, Google has a history of changing things, not always for the better, unfortunately, and it would be a real shame, I suppose, if Google did manage to acquire them and then tried making changes from a formula that currently works very well for HubSpot. So I would hope that wouldn't happen, but Google, we'll see what happens. It would be very interesting. And like you said,
does it?
So many people are on the G Suite already. So many businesses are on the G Suite, and so many other customers are already on HubSpot. That, they're when you combine those two things, if they wrap it all into one, then they've just got an enormous user base and an enormous data to pull from. So.
Think about how you could tie creating Google Ads into a Google-based CRM. Like, think of the possibilities there. It's kind of crazy. And you're right. I think if it was basically became HubSpot by Google and it kind of just remained the way it is, but you integrate Google more, cool. But you're right. If they go and decide they want to reinvent the wheel with something that clearly works, then what are we doing here, right? Like, you might as well just go build your own. Sure. So we shall see. And I'm sure there will be a lot more made of this. And I think if the acquisition were to happen, it would easily become the more interesting story, unless Elon does something even crazier.
He will.
One thing with Elon, you don't hear much about it anymore. But remember when he fired the Tesla into space with the spaceman? Yeah, and it's still going around somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that was a big story to me back in the day, because I thought it was funny. Mm-hmm. It's a roadster, I think, floating up in space somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it was, I mean, we're kind of getting off track here a bit, but obviously Tesla up until recently hasn't done any advertising. It's all been word of mouth and media stunts like that one sort of thing. So they haven't needed to up until recently. So that was a big story from how much does it cost to shoot a Tesla into space versus how much does it cost to do a massive advertising campaign? And they clearly felt that was good value for money.
Yeah, I would question whether or not that Tesla's insured. And you know what? I don't think he's getting it back.
No, probably not.
No, I think that one.
One or two though.
Yeah, so. You're not getting it back, Elon. Sorry.